Jordan.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jordan. The licensee is not here. However, this matter is scheduled for a show cause hearing on September 15th, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. All right, the next case on our calendar is case number 20 CMP 00006, Grand Duchess, license number 106575. This case is canceled due to the offer and compromise entered into the record by, an offer and compromise was provided to the board for its consideration, and so therefore this hearing is canceled. We have now concluded our morning calendar, and so Ms. Jordan, you're excused for the morning. I'm not sure if you will join us this afternoon. And so the board will now move to its legal agenda. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, we now move to our legal calendar. The first matter on our legal calendar is a review of an offer and compromise in lieu of a hearing. This is for Grand Duchess, license number 106575. The offer and compromise for this case is as follows. The charge, failure to follow the terms of the board approved license by operating outside the approved hours of operation, the statutory authority, DC Code section 25823A7. This charge is dismissed. Charge 2, make a substantial change, extended approved hours without board approval, statutory authority, DC Code section 25762A and B13, and DC Code section 25823A1. The term of the OIC is a warning. I therefore make a motion that the board accepts this offer in compromise. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion that has been accepted by Ms. Crockett. Mr. Short.
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato.
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett.
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson.
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis.
Edward Grandis, I agree.
And Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter therefore passes 6-0. The next matter on our agenda is review of protestants' motion for reconsideration of the board's findings of fact, conclusion of law, and order in case number 20 PRO 00038 MAHK Meetings LLC. I make license number 116881. I make a motion that this matter is referred to legal. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion that's been properly seconded by Ms. Crockett. Mr. Short.
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato.
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett.
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson.
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis.
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. The next matter on our legal agenda is a review of applicant's opposition to protestants' motion for reconsideration of the board's findings of fact, conclusion of law, and order in case number 20 PRO 00038, formerly MAHK Meetings, trade name to be determined, license number 116881. I make a motion that this matter also be referred to legal. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I second.
Mr. Grandis and Mr. Short has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short.
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato.
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett.
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson.
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis.
Edward Grandis, I agree.
And Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. The next matter is review of protestants' sure reply to applicant's opposition in case number 20 PRO 00038 MAHK Meetings LLC, license number 116881. I make a motion, I'm sorry. I make a motion that this matter also be referred to legal. Is there a second?
Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. The next matter is a review of ANC 8A's request for reinstatement of protest. This is Union Liquor, license number 109197. I make a motion that we deny this request. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I
Grandis.
second.
Mr. Short and Mr. Grandis have seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. The next matter is a review of applicant's opposition to request for reinstatement of protest. This is in Union Liquor, license Union Liquor 2012, license number 109197. This matter is now moot. The next matter on our agenda is a review of ANC 8A's sure reply to applicant's opposition to the request for reinstatement of protest. This is in Union Liquor 2012, license number 109197. Excuse me, this matter is also moot. The next matter on our agenda is a review of the settlement agreement dated July 14th, 2021 between between Advisory Neighborhood Commission 2C and Urban Roast, license number 115513. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ed Grandis was second.
Mr. Grandis will second the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Mr. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grant,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. The next matter is a review of settlement agreement dated July 16th, 2021 between Advisory Neighborhood Commission 7B and O'Connor Liquors, license number 060231. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I second.
Mr. Short has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passes 6-0. The next case in our agenda is a review of Dawa Hamam's request for reinstatement of its canceled license. This is in Lagos, license number 115606. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ed Grandis was second.
Mr. Grandis and I believe Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Cato,
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. The next matter on our agenda is a review of a request from Mekides Yehaloshet for the board to temporarily suspend the training requirement to obtain the license. This is in Kazaria Lounge, license number 117490. I make a motion that the board approves this request. Is there a second?
Cato seconds.
Mr. Cato, I second the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, Mr. Short, I agree. I'm just going along with our general counsel.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I disagree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I disagree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passes 4-2 with Mr. Grandis and Ms. Henson in disagreement. The next case in our calendar is review of the offer in compromise in lieu of a hearing dated July 19th, 2021. This is for Universal Liquors, license number 72213. And the offer in compromise for this case states as follows. I'm sorry. Charge one, sold alcohol beverage to a person under 21 years of age. Statutory authority, DC Code Section 25781, DC Code Section 25823A1. There is a fine of $2,000 payable within 60 days of the board accepting the OIC. If payment is not made within 60 days, the license will be suspended until the payment has been made. Charge 2, suspension. The license will be suspended for 5 days, with all 5 days stayed for 1 year pending no further violations in that time. Term number 3, completion of alcohol awareness training for all employees who serve alcohol beverages within 90 days from the date of the board order approving the OIC. Charge 2, failure to take reasonable steps to ascertain legal drinking age. The statutory authority, DC Code Section 25783. This charge is dismissed. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I second.
Mr. Short, I second the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Hanson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. The next matter is a review of an offer in compromise in lieu of a hearing dated July 19th, 2021. This is a Mignot matter, license number 100407. And the OIC is as follows. Charge 1, expand operations to another floor, statutory authority, DC Code Section 25762B3. There is a fine of $2,000 to be paid within 120 days, or the license will be suspended until the fine has been paid. Charge number 2, establishment use for lawful purpose, statutory authority, DC Code Section 25823A2. There is a fine of $2,000 to be paid within 120 days, or the license will be suspended until the fine has been paid. Charge 3, violated the board's public health emergency rule, statutory authority, 23 DCMR Section 810.2, DC Code Section 25823A1. But there's a fine of $1,000 to be paid within 120 days, or the license will be suspended until the fine has been paid. Therefore, is a total fine of $5,000 to be paid within 120 days. If the fine has not been paid, the license will be suspended. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I second.
Mr. Short has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passes 6-0. The next matter on our agenda is a review of the consent motion to continue the show cause hearing. This is in the Dirty Goose, license number 101299. I make a motion to approve this request. The hearing is now scheduled for August 4th at 1 p.m. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett, second.
I'm sorry, August 4th at 1:30 p.m. Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passes 6-0-0. The next matter on our agenda is a review of a settlement agreement dated July 11th, 2021 between Advisory Neighborhood Commission 1B and Alice Bar and Lounge, license number 117897. I make a motion that we approve this with modifications. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett, second.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Yeah. Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0-0. The next case on our calendar is a review of an offer and compromise in law for hearing. This is for Big D Liquors. And let me find the offer and compromise for Big D Liquors. I apologize. I'm not as prepared. We're going to be off the record for a couple of minutes, please. I need to find this offer and compromise. I apologize. So we're off the record for a couple of minutes. Let me find the offer and compromise so I can read it in the records. Hold on, please. I apologize, we're still off the record. The record. We're back on the record, Ms. Sanchez. I do apologize for the delay. The offer in compromise for Big D Liquors is charge one, operated without an ABC manager, the statutory authorities, DC Code Section 25762B3. There will be a fine of $2,000 to be paid within 60 days, or the license will be suspended until the fine has been paid. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I second.
Mr. Short has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion that's been properly seconded by Mr. Short. Mr. Short.
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato.
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett.
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Hanson.
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis.
Edward Grandis, I agree.
And Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passes 600. Thank you. We now move to our licensing agenda. The first matter on our licensing agenda is a review application for an entertainment endorsement to provide live entertainment with dancing inside the premises only. This is for Creole on 14th, license number 115577. I make a motion that we placard this matter. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson agree. The matter passed 600. The next case on our license is a review application for the carry out and delivery endorsement. This is for Good Stuff Eatery, license number 078027. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 600. The next matter on our license agenda is review request to update licensed summer garden capacity from 37 patrons to 101 patrons in accordance with the new certificate of occupancy. This is 12 after 12, license number 117238. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Ms. Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 600. The next matter is a review request for an off-premises storage permit endorsement to store alcoholic beverage inventory off-site at the extra space storage facility located at 6011 Blair Road, Northwest. A request is made by Undercurrent Collective, license number 117327. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Bobby Cato, second.
Mr. Cato second the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 600. The next matter, we now move to our supplemental licensing agenda. The first matter on our supplemental licensing agenda is a review request to amend hours to correspond with updated settlement agreement. This is for Hawthorne, license number 099603. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ed Grandis, no seconds.
Mr. Grandis has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Hanson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 600. The next matter is review request to withdraw application for a new ABC license due to inability to obtain a lease from the property owner. The applicant requests a refund of licensing fees paid due to circumstances beyond their control. This is for Vibrations Restaurant and Lounge, license number 118486. I make a motion that we approve these requests. Is there a second?
Ed Grandis, no second.
Mr. Grandis has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Hanson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. The next matter on our licensing agenda, review request to withdraw application for transfer of ownership equity to Appalach Group LLC. This is for Fair Liquors license number 117900. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion that's been properly seconded by Ms. Crockett. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree.
Ms.
The matter-
Crockett did not vote.
I'm
Ms.
sorry,
Crockett,
Ms.
I agree.
Ms. Crockett, I apologize, Ms. Crockett. And Mr. Anderson and Ms. Crockett vote to approve, and Mr. Anderson also votes to approve, and the matter therefore passes 6-0. And I do apologize, Ms. Crockett. All right, let's move now to our cancellation agenda. The first matter on our cancellation agenda, the ABC Board will be canceling the following license for the reasons outlined below. This is for Puku Japanese and Asian Cuisine, license number 104217. Therefore, make a motion that the ABC Board cancels this license. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I second.
Mr. Short has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. We now move to the board's temporary one-day license and substantial change docket. The first request is a request from Linda M. Davis. This is for one-day license class F. This is for Davis and Bank LLC. The license number is 118831. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion that's been properly seconded by Ms. Crockett. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. There are, I'm sorry. There are several other requests on this, 6 other requests on this docket. I'm going to read the names of the 6 establishments, and I will state what the request is, and at the end of the list, I will ask the ABC Board to vote to approve the request. This next request, a request made by Vance V. Allen. This is for one-day license class G. This is for, it's from V Entertainment. The event is 9/4/2021. This is, the license number is 118827. The next request, a request made by Miles D. Ryan. This is a one-day license class G. The date of the event is July 22nd, July 23rd, July 24th. The license number is 118872. The next event request, a request made by Miles D. Ryan. This is a one-day license class G. This is the date of this event is July 31st and August 1st, and the license number is 118873. The next request, a request made by Ashley C. Thomas. This is a one-day license class G. This is a wedding, July 24th, 2021. The license number is 118875. The next request is a request made by DC Cantor Midgara LLC. This is a one-day substantial change. The date of the event is August 7th, 2021. The license number is 090637, and the substantial change license number is 21 SC 00716. The next request, a request made by Central American Independent Day Crawl. This is a pub day crawl. This is a pub crawl from Good Bar Crawls. This is on September 11th, 2021. It's my understanding there are 700 people will be at the event. The license number is 112754, and the substantial change license number is 21 SC 00714. I therefore make a motion that the ABC Board approve the request for these establishments. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 7-6-0-0. All right, we're now at the docket. The following applications were submitted to the Alcohol Beverage Control Board for review. This is our docket. The first applicant is a request made by Social Beast, license number 117089. This is a retailer C restaurant. They're requesting an entertainment endorsement application. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson agrees. The matter passed 6-0-0. The next request, a request made by Capitol Grounds Cafe, license number 117630. They are retailer B. This is a change of hours application. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson agree. The matter passed 6-0-0. The next request is a request made by Brick Lane Restaurant, license number 109778. They are a retailer food tavern. This is a trade name change application. The new name is Mekkai, M-E-K-K-I. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0-0. The next matter is a request made by Homestead, license number 90865. They are retailer C Tavern. This is a trade name change application. The new name is now Commonwealth Cantina Homestead. Is there a second?
Ed Grandis for second.
Mr. Grandis has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0-0. The next request made by Pape, license number 107164. They are retailer C restaurant. This is a letter of request to remove Vipul Kapila, president. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I second.
Mr. Short, I second the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0-0. The next request made by Magu, M-A-G-U-E-Y, Malate, license number 118211. This is an Internet A. This is for a new ABC license application. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ms. Crockett seconds.
Ms. Crockett has seconded the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
and Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0-0. The next request, a request made by Patera Osteria, license number 118338. They are retailer C restaurant transfer with sale application. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I second.
Mr. Short, I second the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 6-0. The next matter on our docket is a request from Scissors and Scotch, license number 118238. They are a retailer C Tavern. It's a new ABC license application. I make a motion that we approve this request. Is there a second?
Ms.
Ed
Crockett
Grandis.
seconds.
Mr. Grandis and Ms. Crockett has second the motion. We'll now have a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Short,
Mr. Short, I disagree.
Mr. Cato,
Bobby Cato, I agree.
Ms. Crockett,
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Henson,
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis,
Edward Grandis, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. The matter passed 5-1 with Mr. Short in disagreement. We're now at the end of our agenda items for this morning. The board then will be in recess until our 1:30 hearing. I now ask that all board members return to executive session for further developments. Thank you very much. We're on the record. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the afternoon session of the ABC Board. My name is Donovan Anderson. I'm chairman of the board. I'm joined with 5 other members today. The 5 other members that I'm joined with are Mr. James Short, Mr. Bobby Cato, Ms. Rafi Crockett, Ms. Jenny Henson, Mr. Ed Grandis. The board has 6 members in attendance for the conduct of business today, and that constitutes a quorum. We have just one hearing we have this afternoon, so it should be straightforward. And without any further ado, I will call our next scheduled hearing. The next case is case number 21 CIT 00057, Desperados Pizza, license number 84731. And Ms. Andrews, can you please celebrate the rights of the licensee and the government, please?
Sure, stand by. Ms. Jordan, your rights have been elevated. That's all I have for this case, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Ms. Jordan, do you know whether or not the licensee will join us today?
Mr. Chairperson, there's a possibility the licensee won't join. We provided them with a written offer in compromise and received the signed copy back this morning. So it was provided to the board's counsel, so the licensee might have understood that they don't need to appear.
All right. Okay, what we will do, can you state your name for the record, please?
Oh, excuse me. My name is Janica Jordan. I'm here on behalf of the government.
All right, thank you. And I heard the representation that was made by you, unfortunately, and the board is in receipt of the offer and compromise, but because we have a hearing and the licensee is not here to confirm that they accept the terms of the agreement, what the board will do is that we will move this over. I know this matter is scheduled for show cause hearing on August 4th, 2021, but what the board, hold on 1 minute, please. All right, so all right, what we will do, we'll move this matter onto the show cause hearing that's scheduled for August 4th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. And if that would, more likely, we probably will move this onto our legal agenda for next week. But I will just move on with the current hearing that's scheduled for August 4th, 2021. Yeah. So the show cause hearing is scheduled for August 4th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. However, it's more likely than not that we will move this onto our legal agenda for the 28th. Thank you for your appearance this afternoon, Ms. Jordan. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
All right, thank you. All right. All right. All right, the next case in our calendar is case number 20 CMP 00101, Big D Liquors, license number 98255. This hearing is canceled due to the submission of an offer in compromise for the board's consideration. The offer in compromise was accepted. It was placed on our legal agenda and was accepted by the board and placed on the record this morning. The next case on our calendar is case number 20 CC 00081, High Market, license number 105727. This hearing is continued to August 4th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. at the request of the respondent and with the consent of the government. The next case on our calendar is case number 20 CC 00059, Universal Liquors, license number 722113. This hearing is canceled due to the submission of an offer in compromise, which was accepted by the board. It was read in our record on our legal agenda this morning. The next case on our calendar is case number 20-251-00034, Angelo Ristorante Italiano, license number 109417. This case will be continued to September 29th, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. The next case in our calendar is a fact-finding hearing, which is Aslin Beer Company, license number 118555. This hearing will be continued to July 28th at 10:30 a.m. We have now reached the end of our calendar for the afternoon. And if there are no other business, I will now formally bring closure to this afternoon's agenda and to the hearing. All right. As chairperson of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board for the District of Columbia, in accordance with Title III, Chapter 405, Office of Open Government, I move that the ABC Board hold a closed meeting on July 28th, 2021, for the purpose of discussing and hearing reports concerning ongoing or planned investigations of alleged criminal, or civil misconduct, or violations of law or regulations, and seeking legal advice from our legal counsel on the board's investigative agenda, legal agenda, and licensing agenda for July 28th, 2021, as published in the DC Register on July 23rd, 2021. Is there a second?
Mr. Short, I second.
Mr. Short has seconded the motion. I will now take a roll call vote on the motion before us now that it's been seconded. Mr. Short.
Mr. Short, I agree.
Mr. Cato.
Bobby Cato, agree.
Ms. Crockett.
Rafi Crockett, I agree.
Ms. Hanson.
Jenny Hansen, I agree.
Mr. Grandis.
Edward Grandis, I agree.
And Mr. Anderson, I agree. As it appears that the motion has passed 6-0, I hereby give notice that the ABC Board will hold this aforementioned closed meeting. Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, notice will also be posted on the ABC Board Hearing Room Bulletin Board, placed on the electronic calendar and ABRA's website, and published in DC Register in as timely a manner as practical. We're now adjourned for the day. I would like to thank the board members for their active participation in the hearings this morning, this afternoon. I'd also like to thank the public for their participation in the hearings this morning and this afternoon. We are now adjourned for the day, and I wish everyone a great day and a great week, and I will see you next week, Wednesday. Thank you very much. Have a great day.